Hello everyone and welcome back to Dark Souls 3 PvP Invasion Action. I'm a little bit sick at the moment, but I've got a bunch of clips that I really want to showcase to you, sort of revolving around your weapon selection during invasions and adapting your playstyle and equipment to in order to better suit your needs. So I've rolled up on these three guys here. They've already quickly dispatched with the red that was already in the world, so they've got dried fingers on. And I see that the host is using the Farron meme sword, and you've got one of the phantoms is using an ultra grey, and the other one's using a great sword one-handed. So I've specifically put a mace on this build to deal with both meme sword users of the Farron variety and of the ultra great variety, because my main weapon is a greatsword. There's no way I can poise through any of that, and obviously if I'm 1v1ing people with the meme sword, it's not such a problem, but in a group fight such as this, having access to perseverance and being able to poise through his breakdance to do some good damage is pretty vital. So generally on most of my builds, whatever level I'm running, I will have something that I can fall back to, which is a hard counter to these kinds of players. You don't have to, obviously. When you're invading, you can invade with whatever weapon you like, and as, you know, if you're good enough, generally you can see some success with it. But having weapons to swap to hard counter, I think, is a vital tactic for any invader. I try and keep a variety of weapons on them to deal with sort of the different situations I'm in. So, for example, this build, I keep a dark manservant hatchet for great shield turtles, and people using the black knight shield. Obviously, that can be very frustrating. I mean, it's not such a problem on an elemental build such as this, because I do have innate chip damage on all my weapons. But having something that can do even more chip damage and something that is spammable, like the manservant hatchet, is a very good choice. On my solo level 30 character, I used a deep infused war pick, which can get through turtles, and it takes advantage of my incredibly high hyper armor and sort of poise that I get from my heavy armor, so I can not only have access to good chip damage, but also not completely negate all the poise that I've stacked on. And so he gets caught in roll catch hell with the mace, which is another wonderful property of the mace. The mace and the Morning Star especially have really good roll catch potential, and that's another weapon that I think you should be keeping in your arsenal as well. Something that's good at roll catching. You can roll catch with most weapons in this game. You know, even the ultra greats, you can do it to a lesser extent. But things like the mace or a straight sword or curved sword, and the hand axe as well, especially, that's really good. You'll see some clips later of me roll catching with a hand axe, and it's absolutely fantastic. So this was a quite a nice sort of starts off as a 2v1, and then ends on a 3v1. These guys were very passive, and I'm trying to sort of bait them further into the level, but they're smarter than that, and they don't want to come and engage with me when I've got loads of enemies to my back. They've already killed the Pontiff Knights, so I don't have that backup. So getting them up to the courtyard with the Earthel Slaves and the Fire Witch seems to be sort of a gargantuan task. I mean, obviously they're playing very tactically there. They're obviously not charging in and headstrong, allowing me to bait them into the enemies. They're playing quite defensively, which eventually it becomes a war of attrition and it wears me down. In this instance, a great sword may not be the most appropriate weapon choice, simply because the great swords are naturally defensive weapons. They're good when people are advancing towards you, as opposed to you advancing towards them. So, because I'm having to pressure them, the great sword isn't such a great weapon choice. I mean, it's not bad, and if you're not playing against super PvP meta people, it can be pretty awesome. But I think a straight sword would have been a much better choice in this situation. He's run out of FP and he's going for Sacred Oath on that Sunlight Sword. And so you see now I've got him on low health, and I've got a long sword as my backup weapon that I have equipped and I soft swap to. I know you don't have to have weapons you can soft swap to, because that does take up equip burden and stuff. But if you're not so worried about poise stacking, I really recommend supplementing your main weapon with something you can soft swap to, something that's sort of a polar opposite of what you're maining. So the longsword is more of an aggressive chase down weapon compared to the greatsword. And so Mr. Blue Balls has got summoned in, and he has got the Farron Meme Sword, and he's got the Black Knight Shield. So I sort of weigh out my options here, and I initially think, okay, well, if he's going to keep with that shield, I could go for the Manserpent Hatchet, but he does change up to two-handing that sword, so he can do the breakdown. So I'm like, right, straight back to the mace. You know, that's a perfect hard counter for this weapon, because I can't poise through it with the greatsword. Just spam Perseverance in his face whilst he's doing that stupid breakdance. And then roll catch hell, man. Excellent. GG Blue. So they wore me down, and I had no Estus at that point, so it was quite fortunate they didn't follow up to try and help the Blue. I think it was because they had run out or were running out of Estus at that point. And you see the white just kind of gives up. Probably not a good tactical decision at that point, because keeping the white in the world on low health means he's an Estus Pinata whenever I need him, but it keeps him out of the fight and it allows me to go to town on the host, whereas me killing him potentially means he could get resummoned back in if the host could spam roll enough, and then he's, you know, password summon Phantom but with 7 plus 10 Estus back, and me with just 2. So fortunately it works out fine for me. And obviously going to my chase down weapon, you know, chasing down with the greatsword will be even harder with this guy spamming roll all over the place. But he gets caught in the straight sword spam. So GG. I've been trying to move away from my point downs, sort of watching back some of my older videos. I'm very, you know, quick to point down on people, and I know it's sort of a very salty, gatekeepering-y, you know, it's generally not a good thing to do to everyone. So I've been trying to save my point downs for just people who especially deserve it. So this was quite a fun little invasion. This was another 3v1, but these poor guys get absolutely put through the mixer by that Fire Witch and myself. So we've got Blue Balls here, and he's going for that Stomp weapon up right out of neutral, which is not a very good idea. You want to be using Stomp as a bait. So if you whiff some attacks, and then when they come in to punish you, you go for the Stomp weapon up. I mean, I use that quite a lot on my Bastard Sword character, GG Blue. That's on level 30. Is that you deliberately whiff attacks, or you make yourself look like you're in a vulnerable position, so they're advancing towards you, and then you go for the Stomp weapon up. And but obviously that's not what he did. He just went straight out of neutral. So now it's just us two, and now got him on low health. Immediately go straight to the straight sword. Boom. Chase down. GG White. I wasn't expected to break his guard there, I was a little surprised. And this poor guy's fat rolling, so unlucky mate. I like the fact that you're using the Carthus Curve Greatsword. I think that's pretty cool. And he stayed till the end. GG. So on to this next invasion. This is another example of why something like the mace is completely indispensable. We run up on a party of 2, one of whom is using the Farron Meme Sword, the other one is using the Ultra Paired Meme Swords. And this is a terrible combination to fight. 1v1, I could quite easily outplay both of these guys, but the stun lock potential between those 2 weapons is absolutely insane. So I just instantly go for the mace. I'm like, right, I need to spam Perseverance as much as possible just to prevent me from getting stun locked to buggery by these guys. I imagine that kills so many poor invaders. That fucking stun lock is absolutely insane. Yeah, get poison on, son. The breakdance can save you now. I never actually played with the Ultra Paired Greatswords. I never had a build that was capable of using them, even when I got the Ring City DLC the first time. So I might have to give those a little play when I do my Let's Play in the Ring City, just because it's so associated with garbage. That weapon, I'm sort of loath to use it. And then roll catch, fucking hell. GG, sir. And so I wasn't having any more luck in Irithyll, and so I moved down to the Demon Ruins because that's where they told me that all the activity was going down. And I had a few invasions, but because because the demon runes are so huge, it was just a lot of running around. But I found these. This is an example of a tactic that I learned from Pathfinder in one of his videos, and it's sort of positioning yourself when you've put someone in a prone position and they're getting up, positioning yourself in order to get them to roll in a certain direction. So I've got this on this narrow bridge, and I was thinking this is a perfect example to try this. So yeah, I try and sort of manoeuvre around him whilst he's in stun lock, to try and get him to roll off the bridge, because he's being locked onto me. That means he's going to roll directly backwards, so if I'm to the side of him, he's going to roll off the bridge, and that's what happened with the host and the phantom there. So thank you, Pathfinder, for that for that little tip. Since my foray back into Gang City for my Let's Play, I was I've started dipping my toes back in with my dedicated invader characters. I had quite a number of good invasions, none of which were particularly cancerous. This was perhaps maybe the worst of them, but it has quite an amusing ending. So this guy's got dried fingers going, and he's got seeds, he's got blues running around, loads of invaders, so it's generally chaos. It's good fun. Almost get this guy. Unfortunately, I'll roll off the edge like the absolute turd that I am. But fortunately, I've got some quite competent invader backup, which is always helpful in situations like this, because obviously this guy's he's looking for as much chaos as possible, and he's clearly quite confident in PvP. He might not be amazing, but he's obviously confident enough to want to slap on those dried fingers. So chase down on the white, so GG. I think I don't know what he was waiting for. He was sort of over by the breakable wall. Maybe he was hoping the host would lure us down there. It's absolute anarchy in this tiny little box room. There's two reds, there's me, there's an Aldrich, and there's a blue in the host. It's absolutely, everyone can hit everyone else. Absolute anarchy. Thank you, Red. Well, you know, he hit me a couple of times there, but during this whole invasion, the Reds don't hit me an awful lot, so I was quite lucky. Now the host goes for a very interesting play here. He ducks into this sort of this part of the level, and he will stay there, and he will keeps trying to bait us in, so he can do charge R2s and to slap us off the edge. He doesn't have force equip, thank God. You see there, he's trying to hide around the corner and just bait us in, which is a good tactic, I suppose. It was quite. It's very, because he's got that really defensive ultra great sword. He's in a very favourable position. So I make my way back round with the silver cat ring equipped just in case. And I was like, right, okay, if we approach it both sides. He's popped the seed at this point in the hopes that we're going to be caught between the silver knights and get blown off the edge. I almost fucking bite it there. That was squeaky bum time right there. And then pop. Get fucked, so he got killed by the silver knight. So GG. I was pissing myself for that. So now we're back up at soul level 90. Good old strength boy with hand axe. After I made that video with the hand axe, the initial one, I've just been having so much fun using this weapon. It's bonkers how good it is. Honestly, when paired with the ultra greatsword, it's just even better. I love it. I love this build. It's got to be one of my favourite ones. Look at this, just 1, 2, 3, dead. Just that easy to roll catch people with. And like I said in that video, the hand axe sort of, it picks up the slack of the ultra greatsword. I mean, I was just having the ultra greatsword as my main weapon, but I was having a lot of trouble with actually hitting people with that weapon, because it's so fucking slow. It does shitloads of damage, but it's slow as balls. And having the hand axe in your offhand, it really sort of supplements my playstyle, and I'm able to do so many mix-ups. So look at this, just fucking going to town on him. Get roll caught, son. And I mentioned in the video that I really like. Oh, I don't really like, but I think the running attack of the ultra greatsword is quite serviceable. And someone asked me why I think that. Basically, in a neutral 1v1, if one of the, the host isn't running away from you. The running attack is garbage, I'll grant you. But when you're chasing down people, it's got good forward momentum, it's got good range, and it's goes straight forward. So unlike the greatsword running attack, the ultra greatsword one, it's pretty serviceable. It's not great, obviously, because it's got quite high recovery frames, but it works as a chase down. There's people panicking away from you. Get verticalities on, split leaf boy. No one more combo for you. One, two. That roll catch with the ultra greatsword, I've seen it work a few times, where you hit them twice with the hand axe and then you do your one-handed arm one, and you can normally roll catch them. No chugs here, sir. We don't chug that Gatorade here, boy. So for this invasion, this is another instance where hard swapping out your weapons in order to suit the situation of the invasion is a very advantageous tactic to use. So I'll roll up on these two. Again, we see the paired ultra greatswords, and the other one's using just a regular ultra greatsword. I think that's the profane one. So obviously, quite a lot of high damaging stun locking weapons there. I can't poise through any of that, even with my ultra greatsword two-handed. They're going to knock me out of that. So I go over to my ultra great hammer, the Millwood Great Hammer. I love this weapon. I used to use it a lot when Ashes of Ariandel first dropped back in the day. I love it. So that means I can poise through both of those weapons with relative ease. I mean, it's a little bit slower than the ultra greatsword, but with these kinds of players, I'm not too concerned about them dodging it. All I need is to be able to poise through it. I mean, again, like I said, you don't need to do any of these hard swaps. You can just stick with your, a decent weapon like a straight sword or something, and as long as you're skilled enough, you'll be able to take on any situation. I just find that hard swapping and having a variety of weapons at your disposal allows you to easily deal with slightly more complex situations where that a straight sword may have trouble with. I mean, straight swords are fucking amazing. They're the best weapon class in this game, but they can't do everything. I like Phantom. Choose a different weapon. So I go back to the ultra greatsword here because I'm anticipating lots of running around and roll catching with the hand axe, but unfortunately the host wants none of it. So goodbye, host. He didn't want to PvP when there was only him. Okay, so to finish off these invasions, this was fucking. This was another squeaky bum time invasion. This was pretty tense. This was super laggy host man with gang squad, and these guys were really super aggressive. And I see that the host has got Havel's great shield, so I've gone over to my deep manservant hatchet. I love this weapon. It's so cool. Aesthetically it looks tits, and the chip damage on it is absolutely insane. So I'll go over to this because it's going to be quicker than. Well, it's not going to be quicker than the straight sword, obviously, but it's going to be quicker than the ultra great hammer and that great axe that the host has got, and I'll be able to do some chip damage. But these guys are super aggressive, especially that guy with the straight sword. He's out for blood, and so I'm just desperately trying to retreat back with my invader buddy, trying to get these guys on their own. But I only get a couple of hits in before the party starts barreling down. Even going for turn and burns is dangerous because there's three of them. If I just miss one of them, I'm going to get caught in stunlock hell and get fucking smushed by all those weapons. So it's just a case of retreating and trying to spread them out and trying to get the little 1v1 fights when we can. It's difficult though when they're playing that aggressively and they're always up your arse. There's sometimes very little you can do. This fucking room with the no lock on allowed. The no lock on room. And unfortunately Mr. Invader friend, he gets summarily smushed. So GG. Don't worry. We'll fight to the end. So I'll try to make my retreat out. There's no point in staying in that room. I'm just going to get absolutely steamrolled. So I set my little ambush here. I stupidly go for 2 R1s and get summarily dicked for it. Fucking frostbite is still no joke. Even at solid level 90, frostbite is still fucking like a damn good status effect. Don't ignore frostbite, Jesus. You see here they're playing incredibly aggressively. I have very little time and room to manoeuvre to make my retreat into a more favourable position, and they're just absolutely barrelling through this place. You see, because the host has fallen behind, he's letting his phantoms do all the work for him, play the game for him. Because you know you got to look for that. You got to find that easy mode for Dark Souls 3. You know, you can't. Heaven forbid you play the game on your own. No, you need an entire party to play it for you. How is she going to beat it? So I swapped back to the Ultra Greatsword. Sorry, a little bit salty. I swapped back to the Ultra Greatsword, and because obviously the host is staying, but he's not fighting. He's letting his phantoms do the work. So going for the wide sweeping Ultra Greatsword, I felt was a better tactical choice than the hatchet at this point. Just continually making my retreat, and again, there's two of them here, and I can't stay here. Like they're because of their aggression, that I'm just going to get absolutely diced up. So I make my retreat back down. I don't have the Silver Cat ring. I didn't really have time to swap to it, so now it's just a case of working my way back around. But fortunately, our invader friend has invaded back in, so he gets another shot at glory, and he's already killed the other phantom, the guy with the straight sword. So he's obviously quite a competent PvPer. He was just overwhelmed in the first instance, and now we've got Mr. White on his own. And obviously he's ganker, he's trash on his own. He can't fight. He has to play the game with millions of people in order to win. And so he gets absolutely chopped up with a hand axe. So get fucked, sir. And now time to go deal with Mr. Host. And I think at this point he's already started resummoning his buddies back in. You know, obviously can't play the game with a million. We can't play the game on his own. Heaven forbid to play with a million people. So swap over to the Chloranthy here, because I need as much stamina recovery as I can. You know, swinging all these weapons and having to dodge quite a lot is going to be very stamina intensive. So he's got straight sword buddy back in, but it's 2v2 now, so it's infinitely more manageable. So I go back to the Handman Serpent Hatchet, but because this guy lives in like Uzbekistan and using some cracked Wi-Fi from McDonald's, the lag is absolutely bonkers. Look at that, it's just absolutely insane. Get a fucking LAN cable, they're not expensive, Jesus. So my red friend he's polished off straight sword guy, so now it's just a case of chasing this guy down. And you know, he's ganker, he doesn't want to fight on his own. All he's going to do is chug and run. So I'm just letting red guy. He's got the good chase down weapon in this point. He's got the curved ultra great sword. That's better for chase downs than anything I have. So he tries to lose us on the elevator. We both barrel in, just try and R1 spam him. He falls off, and in my haste to go and point down and throw poo at him, I barrel off too, and I get killed. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again.